The Five Styles of Narration, Part 1, First Person. In any story that you might write, you'll find that the narrative is something you don't want to do without. Sorry, let me rephrase that. In any story that you might be thinking of writing, without some form of narration, trust me, you won't be writing it. I've talked about narration in some of my other videos as it is such an integral part of a written story. To put it in basic terms, it is the telling of your story. It is your story's voice. It's how you, the writer, convey your story to your reader. And you accomplish this in any one of five distinct ways: first person, second person, third person omniscient, third person limited, and third person objective. In this five-part series, I will explain exactly what each of these five are and their potential role in your story. Time for another of my little tales. I am writing this letter of confession for the outrageous act of murder that I committed late last night. The act I speak of is the taking of the life of my wife, who I had been married to for the 29 years prior. Those were some of the best years of my life. We were childhood sweethearts, and before we left for college, knew that we would spend the rest of our lives together. I'm not even sure what she saw in me back then. She was the prettiest girl in the school, the head cheerleader, and could have had any boy she wanted. But to my joy, she didn't just choose me, she vowed to never leave me. We were married right after we graduated, and our parents couldn't have been happier. They had come to terms with the inevitable fact that we were each half of a perfect whole, and couldn't imagine life if the other wasn't in it. 5 years into our marriage, and we were as much in love then as we were on our wedding day. 5 years more, and still our love for each other hadn't faltered in the least. In fact, I believe we found a new level of romance that we hadn't explored before. It didn't seem as if life could be any better. But after 23 years of marriage, it began to take its toll on us. I wasn't as athletic, and I became complacent, never really wanting to do anything out of the norm, never seeking adventure. I had become comfortable in a daily routine of merely existing. Alice, although still more of a catch than I was, had put on a few extra pounds of her own. But it wasn't so much that she had accumulated that unnecessary weight, it was the fact that she stopped caring. She had begun making excuses for it and claiming her new size made her a sexier, full bodied woman and one I should be grateful to call his wife. But I wasn't grateful, and I increasingly began to despise her for it. But not just for the weight, she still looked quite amazing next to me. It was her changed outlook on life. It seemed like she was systematically giving up on all the things that I loved about her. She stopped dressing in those sexy outfits. She ended her weekly trips to the salon, claiming that she was saving us money. And I can't remember the last time we went for a stroll while holding hands. I found myself despising her for everything she did. I began wondering what my life would be like without her in it. That's when the first thought of killing her slipped into my mind. I had fought the urge for 6 long years, but never actually doing more than thinking about her death. These thoughts were more prominent while she sat across from me at the breakfast table, or as I listened to her snoring late at night. Don't get me wrong, she was still the most beautiful woman I knew. I simply hated everything else about her. But it was the fact that we were just weeks away from our 30th wedding anniversary, and all I could think of was how I couldn't take spending another 30 years with her. The 30th is supposed to be the gift of pearl. It's supposed to represent the slow process of the layers of your undying love, but all I was able to envision was Pearl Harbor and death. So, with just a few days away, I took her out for a romantic midnight drive by the edge of a large forest, a place no one ever goes to anymore. And while she stared up at the stars, I bashed her head in with the tire iron. 2 days later, I got a call from the police informing me that my wife's body had been found. They said I was to come and identify the body. I told them I'd be right there. Then I raced to the forest, remembering to look heartbroken in front of the police at the sight of my dearly departed wife. But when I arrived, Detective Chief Inspector Wright told me I was being charged with her murder. We will begin with the first person narrative, the one you probably wrote your first story in. And then at the end of this video, I'll tell you how DCI Wright knew he was the murderer. Remember that first story you wrote for your teacher? That assignment probably came after summer break, so you more than likely wrote about, well, something you did during that time. Maybe you wrote about the trip you took with your family, or maybe you wrote about the summer job that you worked at, or maybe you spent the first few weeks in summer school and decided to write about that. Whatever you ended up writing about, since you put yourself in the story, you wrote it in the first person. Like any good writer, you wrote about what you know. And since your assignment was to write about what you did, you made the story about you and some of the things you ended up doing. When writing in the first person, you write from the viewpoint of yourself as a character in the story using I or we. Here's an example. For my summer vacation, we went up to the cottage like we do every summer. Me, my two sisters, mom and dad. This year it was different because I was finally able to drive the motorboat. It was so cool that my sisters who never got a turn were pissed off for the whole day. But I didn't care. Dad said that I handled it better than him his first time. First person narrative is used when the person narrating the story is in the story, usually the main character. This is a good example of the type of story new writers start with, writing about the one thing we all know about better than anything else, ourselves. For another example, we'll use the story of the man who drove along the dark and dangerous road alone. Here, since he is the only character in the story and the story is entirely about him and his journey, the first person narrative works well. After setting the GPS in my car, I headed out onto the darkened road. Because of the state of it, I couldn't drive beyond 30 kilometers per hour. There were debris scattered everywhere, and more than once I had to get out and physically clear a path before it was possible to continue. I contemplated the idea of turning my car around and driving back, but I would not allow myself the option of failure. I took this journey for a reason, and I was determined to see it through. With first person narrative, which is the same as first person point of view, we know we are hearing the main character's account of the story. We get first hand knowledge of everything he experiences as the story is told through his eyes. Another part of first person narration is first person peripheral. This is used when the narrator, the storyteller, isn't the main character but a supporting character, like the antagonist or some other secondary character, like a love interest or best friend. The I narration is still used, meaning even though someone other than the main character is telling the story, they are still telling it from their point of view. Because of this, they continue to use I and we. But because the story isn't told from the point of view of the main character, the reader is privy to events and experiences that the main character isn't. I'll give you an example of what I mean. We'll make the secondary character the main character's love interest, named Janet. I was sitting by the window of our apartment watching and waiting for the moment when Nigel would step off the bus. It was convenient having a bus stop right at our apartment building's door. It was then that I saw the number 39 bus turning the corner onto our street. I couldn't stop myself from smiling when I saw the bus pull to a stop and Nigel step onto the sidewalk. But then my smile was replaced with a look of surprise. Just off to the side, I saw three men hiding by a set of bushes at the front of our building. Normally, it wouldn't concern me about seeing three strangers hanging outside of our building. People generally waited there for the bus. But these men I recognized. They were the same three men that made an inappropriate comment to me a few nights earlier. Nigel took great offense, as he should, and pushed one of the men to the ground. Someone saw the commotion and came to see what was going on. The men quickly ran off. I had forgotten all about them until now. I caught my breath as I stared down and watched the three men approaching. Nigel didn't even see the men until it was too late. While he was looking up at me as I was desperately waving to get his attention, one of the men hit him from behind. Once he was down, they began kicking him until the bus driver ran out of the bus swinging some sort of pipe. Nigel was lying bloody on the sidewalk when the three men ran down a side street. As you can tell, the use of I is prevalent throughout this narrative. The difference being, Janet isn't the main character, and from her viewpoint, looking down from their apartment window, she was able to see things that Nigel wasn't able to. If this was from Nigel's point of view, his narration could only speak of the bus ride and then looking up at his apartment window and seeing Janet as he stepped off the bus. But nothing more. Janet, on the other hand, with first person peripheral, she is privy to a lot more. She saw the men hiding. She recognized the men from their earlier altercation and could tell that there was a chance Nigel was in danger. She saw Nigel step off the bus and she saw the men approaching. She saw Nigel look up at her as the men attacked him. She saw the driver come to his rescue and she saw the direction the men fled to. In a situation like this, it allows the reader to know something that the main character doesn't know. And let's face it, it might become a pretty boring read if your main character knew everything that was about to happen. First person narrative being shown through the eyes of the main or secondary character gives your story a more intimate view of your story. The way Janet would be able to describe the impending danger about to befall her love, Nigel, is able to allow your reader a little insight into the state of their relationship. While witnessing the crime that was unfolding in front of her, she was able to best convey her emotional state. But it doesn't mean her emotional state has to be from a position of love. What if Janet was the one who had called those men to attack Nigel as soon as he stepped off the bus and she wanted a front row seat to enjoy watching him get a little of what he had been subjecting her to? First person narrative can serve to aid your story in ways other points of view are unable to. Just remember, when thinking of how you're going to tell your story, decide on who it is that you want telling it. And now I'll tell you the ending of the story I call Putting My Foot in My Mouth. When I arrived, the police, the detectives, as well as the paramedics all stared at me in surprise as they watched me walk up to the body of my wife. I hadn't even gotten the chance to go into my heartbroken routine when one of the officers grabbed me by the arm and placed me under arrest. It turns out I had made a big mistake rushing out to the forest. Now, having time to think a little clearer, if I had to do it all over again, I would have waited for the police to tell me where they found Alice's body, since only the murderer would have already known. Thanks for watching, and if you found anything I said beneficial to you in any way, hit that subscribe button because you never know, my next video might just be helpful too.